All right, everyone. So, you know how palm oil's kind of blown up recently? Everyone's talking about it, but we're going deeper than the headlines today.
Yeah, definitely deeper.
We found this super interesting article. It's from this company, Farmonaut.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
They're doing some seriously cool stuff combining tech and agriculture. But, before we get into all that, maybe we should back up a sec for anyone who needs a little refresher.
Absolutely.
So, palm oil. It's in, well, everything, right? I feel like we've all seen those infographics about how it's in our shampoo and our snacks.
Right, it's everywhere. It's kind of inescapable, and that's what makes it such a big deal.
Exactly, it's huge. But why is that again? Remind me.
Well, it all comes down to how insanely efficient palm oil production is. Like, compared to other veggie oils, palm oil, you get way more oil per hectare of land.
Oh, right. And the article actually mentioned, hold on, I wrote it down. Ah, here it is. It said 1 hectare of oil palm can produce like 6 times more oil than soybeans.
Yeah, something like that. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's mind-blowing. No wonder it's in everything, right?
Exactly. And that's part of the problem, or at least part of the reason why the problems with palm oil are so big.
Uh,
Like, yeah, it's super efficient, but that also means there's huge demand, which puts a lot of pressure on the environment, on forests, on everything, really.
Okay, so then it's not just about saying stop using palm oil, because it's clearly not that simple. So what's the solution then?
Well, that's what I found so interesting about Farmonaut. They're not just like anti-palm oil. They get why it's so appealing to growers. They're trying to find ways to make the whole industry more sustainable.
And that's where all the call tech comes in, right? They were talking about using satellites and AI and all kinds of stuff. And it's not just about slapping a sustainable label on it either. They're talking about boosting profits for farmers.
Exactly. That's what makes them so unique. They're not just advocating for better practices, they're actually building the tools to make it happen. Like they were talking about using AI to analyze satellite images and pinpoint a single tree that's stressed from drought way before a human could ever spot it.
Whoa, hold on. Satellites watching crops from space. How does that even work?
It's super cool. Actually, they break it down in the article with this really cool comparison chart. It's satellites versus drones versus those little on-the-ground sensors. It's super interesting to see how each has its pros and cons, but seeing how Farmonaut puts it all together, that's fascinating, especially for any tech lovers out there.
Okay, so they're using satellites and crunching all this data, but how does that actually help a farmer out in the field?
So imagine you're managing like a huge palm oil plantation.
Right.
We're talking thousands of hectares, right? You can't be everywhere at once. But with this system, it's almost like having like a 247 team of like crop doctors, but way more affordable because it's all automated.
And they can do that all from space.
Well, the satellites are just the start. They're collecting the data, but then the AI takes over, analyzes everything, and flags any potential problems.
So a farmer could get an alert on their phone saying, hey, this specific tree over here needs some extra water. That's wild.
Exactly. Or it could be, hey, this section is showing signs of disease. You might want to check it out. It's all about early detection.
And the article also mentioned Farmonaut was using something called blockchain traceability. And I got to be honest, I hear blockchain and my brain kind of just shuts off. It's like magic internet money, right?
It is kind of like that, but simpler than it sounds. Think of it like, imagine every batch of palm oil gets a unique digital fingerprint, a code that's tracked on this super secure, tamper-proof ledger. And that means you can follow the journey of that oil from the farm it came from all the way to I don't know, that jar of peanut butter you've got in your pantry right now.
Okay, so no more shady supply chains or wondering what's actually in the stuff we buy. That's huge for us. But how does it benefit the farmers using Farmonaut's tech?
Transparency is key. If you can prove that your palm oil was produced sustainably, no deforestation, fair labor practices, all that's a huge selling point. And with blockchain, you've got the proof right there.
Consumers are definitely more conscious of that stuff these days.
Absolutely. They're willing to pay a premium for that guarantee,
Yeah.
and blockchain makes that guarantee rock solid.
See, this is why I love these deep dives. We start with palm oil. Suddenly we're talking about satellites, AI, blockchain. It just goes to show you how interconnected everything is these days.
Right. It's not just about agriculture anymore. It's about technology, global trade, sustainability. It's fascinating to see how it all comes together.
And it all kind of loops back to that initial problem. How do we meet this huge demand for palm oil in a way that doesn't wreck the planet?
Exactly. And the cool thing is this technology, this approach, it's not just limited to palm oil. This could be a game changer for Well, pretty much any crop you can think of.
You're saying we could use this for like coffee, cocoa beans, all that.
Exactly. The basic idea of monitoring plant health, optimizing resource use, ensuring transparency that applies across the board. The possibilities are pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It's like we're getting a sneak peek at the future of farming, and it's all about like working with nature instead of just trying to, control everything.
Yeah, and the article takes it even further. They were talking about this circular economy within palm oil production, where like every part of the plant gets used, nothing goes to waste.
Hold on, so you're saying like we can build a whole economy around a single crop. How does that even work?
Basically, it's about being resourceful. Like take those leftover fruit bunches after they've extracted the oil, right?
Yeah.
Turns out you can use that stuff for like biofuel or fertilizer. Even the wastewater from the processing plants, you can treat it and use it for irrigation. It's about closing the loop, basically, making the whole system more sustainable and way more efficient.
Okay, that's seriously cool. I also noticed the article mentioned some pretty wild stuff about genetic research on oil palms.
Oh yeah, that's some next level stuff. Like imagine you could have palm varieties that are naturally resistant to like common diseases or varieties that can thrive in like tougher climates. And we're not even talking about GMOs here. This is all about using those traditional breeding techniques, but like sped up by technology.
Yeah.
They're developing crops that are more resilient, especially as our climate, keeps changing.
Now, that is seriously forward thinking. And speaking of which, the article touched on this idea of like agroforestry systems. It sounded like, I don't know, something out of a nature documentary. Growing palm oil trees alongside like all these other crops, almost like creating a mini rainforest or something.
Exactly. Because it's not sustainable to keep relying on those massive monocultures. They're super vulnerable to diseases. They need tons of pesticides. Agroforestry systems, though, they're designed to like mimic those natural ecosystems. So you've got your oil palms, right?
Yeah.
But you're also growing like fruit trees, maybe even raising livestock in the shade of the canopy. It's all about biodiversity, about creating a system that's like naturally more balanced and resilient in the long run.
Man, we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive. From the problems with palm oil to satellites and AI, blockchain, the future of farming.
Yeah.
It's crazy how this one crop, this one plant, is at the center of so many huge global trends, you know?
It really is. And I think the most exciting part is that like Farmonaut is just one example of like the innovation that's happening right now, the tech they're making, the ideas they're putting out there. It's all pushing us towards a food system that's like actually sustainable, actually equitable.
Well, it gives you hope, you know?
It really does. And speaking of hope, I think that's a good place to wrap up for today.
Yeah, but before we go, here's something to chew on. This article, it gave us a snapshot of like where things are at right now in the present, right? But what about tomorrow? What crazy innovations are just around the corner? Will we be growing palm oil in like vertical farms someday? Will AI be designing entire regenerative agriculture systems? The possibilities are like endless.
They really are. The future of food is being written right now.
Yeah.
And it's up to all of us to like pay attention, to ask questions, and hey, maybe even play a part in shaping that future. Who knows? Maybe one of our listeners will be the one designing those next-gen sustainable farms.
There you go, a little food for thought, literally. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.
Until next time.